Get to that cold in just a moment. We begin tonight with a story of what some are calling an abuse of power and an act of political retribution by those close to one of the most prominent politicians in our country. The story begins on the busiest bridge in the world, and you are looking live at the entrance to the George Washington Bridge linking New York and New Jersey, part of the massive I-95 artery up and down the East Coast. Because of a sudden and enormous traffic backup on that bridge this past September, a scandal has now erupted around the governor of New Jersey, Christie, a man a lot of Republicans regard as a consensus candidate for the party nomination in 2016. Emails have been released showing the traffic backup was the work, apparently, of members of Christie's staff, among others, and that it was intentional and political, meant to make life difficult for a Democratic mayor on the Jersey side of the bridge. It's where we begin tonight with NBC's Stephanie Gosk.
Even by New York City standards, the traffic that clogged the entrance to the George Washington Bridge last September was maddening. For 4 days, 2 traffic lanes in Fort Lee, New Jersey were shut down, bringing that city to a standstill. Among those caught in the jam for hours, police officers searching for a missing 4-year-old girl. Emails and text messages released today by New Jersey officials suggest the traffic nightmare was deliberately triggered by one of the top aides to New Jersey Governor Christie.
The documents that have been published are both shocking and outrageous. They show government at its worst. Among other things, they call into serious question the honesty of this governor and his staff.
In a strongly worded denial tonight, Governor Christie says, "What I have seen today for the first time is unacceptable. Not only was I misled by a member of my staff, but this completely inappropriate and unsanctioned conduct was made without my knowledge." 2 weeks before the monster traffic jam, Christie's deputy chief of staff, Bridget Ann Kelly, emailed a local transportation official, David Wildstein. Time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee. Wildstein, a Christie appointee and a high school friend, replied, "Got it." After 2 days of disruption and chaos, one unidentified person sent this text to Wildstein: "Is it wrong that I am smiling?" Democratic leaders accuse the governor's aides of punishing Fort Lee's mayor for refusing to endorse Christie in his re-election campaign.
Who deserves the apology? The families that live here in Fort Lee, who were hours late for the opening day of school. They deserve an apology.
Before today, Governor Christie denied his office had anything to do with the shutdown and sarcastically denied personally being involved.
Unbeknownst to everybody, I was actually the guy out there. I was in overalls and a hat, so I wasn't but I actually was the guy working the cones.
America's governor, Christie.
Governor Christie is considered a GOP frontrunner for 2016, a pragmatic, no-nonsense politician with bipartisan appeal.
If this scandal continues, it could really be a drag in terms of whether or not he's going to be successful in that effort.
In his statement tonight, the governor distances himself completely from an unnamed member of his staff and says people will be held responsible for their actions. Brian, it sounds like the story is going to continue to make some news in the coming days.
If you didn't say that, I was going to. Stephanie Gosk starting us off tonight. Steph, thanks. And let's talk about the politics of all this with our chief White House correspondent and political editor, Chuck Todd, on the north lawn of the White House. Chuck, so far tonight, I've heard James Carville say the governor should go to Fort Lee tomorrow morning and own this situation. I've heard a member of Congress say it looks like the governor's put his constituents under a bus. This only happens at a dicey time for him because he's about to take a post to give him even more visibility.
He's basically beginning the very early stages of his presidential campaign in days, Brian, as he takes over this, becoming head of the Republican Governors Association. But look at what hasn't happened tonight, Brian, is we haven't heard from Christie beyond a statement. This is very un-Christie-like. This entire episode is doing 2 things for him that are going to cause him major problems right now if he doesn't get out in front of this in a hurry. Number one, it undermines one of his most compelling parts of his message, that he's a bipartisan guy, that he'll work across the aisle. Well, that's not the act that happened here. They punish somebody from across the aisle. The second is that it reinforces a negative stereotype that you and I both know has been out there for years about him, that he's just a bully at heart every once in a while and kind of mean. Well, this looks like this was a mean and bully-like decision.
All right, Chuck Todd from the White House North Lawn. As Stephanie Gosk said, we'll be hearing a lot more about this.